ate too many cookies. I ate too many cookies. I just got off work and I had dinner. And then I was like, I'm still hungry, so I'm gonna eat some cookies. And I ate too many. I ate too many. Pray for me. I know how you feel, Yuki. Eat too many cookies. Hey, lmao. Nice to meet you, Mr. Earthling. My name's Yuki Koyuki, and welcome back to Koyuki channel. Oh, the cookie regret is real. Cause I was like, I was eating cookies while the theme song was playing. Like, while the theme song was going, I was munching on cookies, and I was just like, Hoover vacuuming them up. And then as soon as I tabbed over, and I stopped eating cookies, cause I had to put down my cookies to tab over, and immediately I was just hit with this wave of too many cookies. No milk? No, I had milk. I had a full milk. I had a full milk and 4 cookies. Which you think 4 isn't that many cookies, but these were big cookies. They were honking cookies. I ate too many. You have 2 sets of milk on you? Hey! Hey! God. Anyway, hope you feel better. Yeah, I think I'll be okay. I think it's just a too many cookies regret moment. But yeah. Ugh. My first place mark. Haha. Gotta chat more. Gotta chat more, gotta chat faster. Gotta chat fast. Gotta chat fast. Anyway. Hi. This is, of course, referring to the 2 bottles of milk Yuki has perpetually taped to her back. Of course! What else could it be referring to? Oh wait, my bangs are in the way, so I can't wiggle my eyebrows. Hold on, okay, my hair's pinned back. Now I can wiggle on my eyebrows. Now I can do my little eyebrow waggle. Oh, man. Okay. But yeah, so where we last left off, we were about halfway through Wayside School Gets a Little Stranger. So we, the kids are having substitute teachers now, cause Miss Jules fucked off to have a baby. Fucked off to get pregnant. Miss Jules got pregnant. Miss Jules got plapped. And is gonna have a baby. So now we have a bunch of different substitute teachers. We met Mr. Gorf, who was Mrs. Gorf's son, and stole everyone's voices until he sneezed his nose off. And now, yesterday's live stream was wild, was it? Yeah, no, there's some weird stuff. These books are bizarre. They're really fun, though. And now we're currently on the Mrs. Drazil arc. We're about halfway through that arc. Last chapter, Mrs. Drazil did the Galileo experiment with everyone, and everyone had fun with that. And this chapter, it's titled Chapter 15, An Elephant in Wayside School. So, I'm not entirely sure what's gonna happen in this chapter. I don't remember this chapter. But I see Lewis's name a lot in the first few paragraphs, so I assume... I assume we're gonna find out Mrs. Drazil's, backstory, because if I'm remembering correctly, If I remember correctly, Lewis was the one who originally told us about Mrs. Drizzle. Still freaked out by that one teacher who took the kids' voices, right? That was some straight up, like, creepypasta shit. That was some good shit, though. I really enjoyed that. Yeah. Yeah. Lots of fun. I really enjoyed it. Alright. Yeah, let's start clipping. Let's start paging through this book and getting through this next Wayside book. We are on chapter 15, An Elephant in Wayside School. The bell rang for recess, and the children exploded out of the building. Lewis, the yard teacher, was ready with a big pile of red and green balls. The kids called, "Hi, Lewis!" and "Over here, Lewis!" as he tossed the balls to them, over his shoulder, behind his back, through his legs. Dee Dee came charging out of the building. Usually by the time she got to the playground, there were no good balls left, but she could see one red ball by Lewis's foot. She knocked over a kid from the 10th floor and shouted, "Hey, look!" Suddenly, she stopped. She had just remembered where she'd heard of Mrs. Drizzle. It was from Lewis. He had once told her about the meanest teacher he'd ever had when he was a kid. She hurried over to her friends to make sure. "Hey, Todd," she called. Todd was playing tetherball with Ron. As he turned to look at Dee Dee, the ball came around and bonked him on the head. "Do you remember when Lewis told us about the meanest teacher he ever had?" asked Dee Dee. Todd shook his head. After being conked by the tetherball, he couldn't remember anything. "I remember," said Jason, who was in line to play. "Whenever Lewis got in trouble, the teacher used to put the waste paper basket over his head." "That's right," said Jenny. "And then Lewis would have to keep it there for the rest of the day, and everyone would laugh at him. And then the teacher would call on him to answer questions from the blackboard, but he couldn't see the questions, so she'd give him an F. Do you remember the teacher's name?" asked Dee Dee. Her friends shook their heads. Todd couldn't even remember his own name. "I think it was Mrs. Drizzle," said Dee Dee. They ran to Lewis. "Hey, Lewis," said Jason. "What was the name of that mean teacher you once had when you were a kid?" "Which one?" asked Lewis. "The one that put the trash can on your head," said Jenny. Lewis shuddered just thinking about her. "Mrs. Drizzle," he whispered. The kids looked at each other. "What color hair did she have?" asked Jason. "Brown," said Lewis. "Why?" "We have a substitute teacher," explained Dee Dee. "She's real nice." "Good," said Lewis. "Her name is Mrs. Drizzle," said Dee Dee. "Whoa, I'm getting out of here," said Lewis. He started to run, but the kids grabbed him. "It's okay," said Jenny. "It can't be the same teacher. Our teacher is nice." "And her hair isn't brown," said Jason. "It's white." Lewis relaxed a little bit. "You want to come up and meet her?" asked Dee Dee. "No way," said Lewis. "Oh, you're so silly, Lewis," said Dee Dee. "She's not the same teacher. And besides, you're a teacher now, too." "Oh yeah, I forgot," said Lewis. "Come on, Lewis," said Dee Dee. She held his hand and led him up the stairs. They entered the classroom. Mrs. Drizzle was putting some of the children's work on the bulletin board. "Mrs. Drizzle," said Dee Dee, "we brought our yard teacher up to meet you." "It's very nice to meet you," said Mrs. Drizzle as she pinned up Joe's arithmetic test. "Exercise is so important for young minds and bodies." She turned around. Lewis's face paled. "Well, it was nice to meet you," he said very quickly. "I've got to go. Bye." "Stay right where you are, Lewis," ordered Mrs. Drizzle. He froze. Mrs. Drizzle slowly walked to her desk. She picked up the old blue notebook. There's no such thing as a good teacher in that school. Yeah, they're all evil. "The notebook," whispered Lewis. Mrs. Drizzle opened it and flipped through the pages. "Here we are," she said. She removed a piece of paper and handed it to Lewis. "Is this your homework?" she asked. Lewis looked at it. You were supposed to copy it over, weren't you? Asked Mrs. Drizzle. That was over 15 years ago, said Lewis. I don't remember. I do, said Mrs. Drizzle. Oh, now I remember, said Lewis. I was going to copy it over, but then my pencil point broke, so I went to sharpen it, but the pencil sharpener fell on my foot, so I had to go to the hospital. I don't want any of your famous excuses, Lewis, said Mrs. Drizzle. I just want the homework. You may share Dee Dee's desk. Lewis sat next to Dee Dee. And remember, Lewis, said Mrs. Drizzle, I know your tricks. Dee Dee watched Lewis struggle with his homework. Sorry, Lewis, she said. Don't be sorry, said Mrs. Drizzle. It's for his own good. And I expect neatness, Lewis, or else you'll just have to do it again. He frowned. Mrs. Drizzle stood over him and watched him work. Your fingernails are filthy, she said. I'm the yard teacher, Lewis tried to explain. I spend a lot of time outside, in the grass and dirt and stuff. I don't want excuses, said Mrs. Drizzle. I want clean fingernails. And while you're at it, shave off that mustache. It looks like a hairy caterpillar crawling across your face. Not my mustache, said Lewis. Unless you want me to rip it off for you, said Mrs. Drizzle. Dee Dee felt terrible. I can't believe Mrs. Drizzle still remembers you after all this time, she said. An elephant never forgets, muttered Lewis. I heard that, said Mrs. Drizzle. She put the waste paper basket on Lewis's head. Chapter 16. Mr. Poop. Ripping off a man's mustache is assault and battery. But is it really assault if you're a teacher and you have complete dominion over the children in your care? I think not. It's good that teachers can do things like that to children. Anyway. Chapter 16. Mr. Poop. I have no idea what to expect from a chapter titled Mr. Poop. And it's a shame Amlogus isn't here because I feel like he would get a absolute kick out of Mr. Poop. We would be getting fart emojis spammed up the wazoo. Why is he called that? I think we'll just have to read and find out. Alright. Chapter 16. Joy, Mauricia, and Jenny were playing jump rope out on the playground. School hadn't started yet. Mauricia and Jenny were twirling. Joy sang as she jumped. My mama wore pajamas to the grocery store. She smashed a bunch of eggs on the grocery floor. 1 dozen, 2 dozen, 4 dozen, 6. She dumped a bunch of jelly jars into the mix. Grape jelly, apricot, don't forget cherry. Orange marmalade and wild strawberry. A man walked by and fell in the glop. He slid next door to the barber shop. His icky sticky body got covered in hair. He tore a hole in his Whoa! Joy tripped over the rope. It wasn't her fault. Mauricia had suddenly stopped twirling. Hey, said Joy. What's the big idea? Look, said Mauricia. A very handsome stranger was walking toward them. The girls stared at him. Good morning, Mauricia, said the stranger. Jenny? Joy? How do you know my name? Mauricia asked nervously. She wasn't supposed to talk to strangers. Oh my God! I've known you for a long time, said the stranger. I see you almost every day. Mauricia was beginning to feel scared. She looked around for Lewis, the yard teacher, but didn't see him. I can scream real loud, she warned. Oh my gosh, said Jenny. It's Lewis! Mauricia looked at the stranger. He did sort of look like Lewis. except his hair was combed, his shirt was tucked in, he was wearing a tie, and there was skin between his nose and mouth. He had shaved off his mustache. "That's Mr. Lewis to you," said Lewis. "I'm a teacher, and I expect to be treated with respect." "You want to play jump rope, Mr. Lewis?" asked Mauricia. Lewis was great at jump rope. He could even do it blindfolded. He was the one who taught Joy the song she was singing at the beginning of this story. "No, not the mustache!" Lewis has become Mr. Poop. "No, thank you, Mauricia," said Lewis. "I don't play games. I'm an adult." "But you're a yard teacher," said Jenny. "No, I'm a professional playground supervisor," Lewis corrected her. He walked away. "Wow," whispered Mauricia. "I never knew Lewis was so handsome." Jenny patted her heart. "I think I'm in love," she said. "I thought he looked kind of goofy," said Joy. Up in class, everyone was talking about the new Lewis. "He looks so weird without his mustache," said Calvin. "He's handsome," said BB. "He got mad at me for running across the blacktop," complained John. "He made me go all the way back to the edge of the blacktop and walk across it, and I had to call him Mr. Lewis." "I'm very proud of Lewis," said Mrs. Drizzle. "He's always been a troublemaker, but I think he's trying to be good. We should all give him a chance." Joy stared at Mrs. Drizzle. "It's your fault," she thought. "You made him shave off his mustache." At recess, Lewis refused to pass out the balls. "I haven't washed them yet," he said. "You're going to wash the balls?" asked Eric Bacon. "They're filthy," said Lewis. "And they all have the wrong amount of air in them." "I don't care," said Eric Fry. "I do," said Lewis. "Before I can let you play with them, I have to clean them and pump them up with the precise amount of air as specified by Poops." "Poops?" asked Eric Evans. "The Professional Organization of Playground Supervisors," explained Lewis. He showed them the Poops Handbook. "Well, what are we supposed to do?" asked Eric Fry. "Just play and have fun," said Lewis. "But remember, stay off the grass. No running on the blacktop. No eating. And no excessive shouting." The three Erics walked away. "What a booger brain," muttered Eric Bacon. Lewis heard him. "That's Mr. Booger Brain to you, young man," he said. The next day, when the kids tried to go outside for recess, they only made it down to the 4th floor. The stairs were completely jammed with other kids from the lower classrooms. "Hey, what's going on?" shouted Joy. "Lewis won't let anyone outside," somebody shouted back. "He's painting the blacktop." "But I have to go to the bathroom," yelled Stephen. "Now he's gone too far," said Joy. "Excuse me, out of my way, sorry, coming through," she said as she squeezed in and out of kids, crawled through legs, climbed over heads, until she made her way to the door at the bottom of the stairs. Lewis was slopping black paint across the blacktop. Joy could see him through the glass door. Next to him was a big bucket of paint. "Mr. Lewis!" she shouted so loud that even the kids back up on the 4th floor had to put their hands over their ears. He came to the door. "What are you doing?" Joy demanded. "The blacktop isn't black," explained Lewis. "It's gray. A blacktop is supposed to be black. It's right here on page 43 of the Poops Handbook." He opened the book and showed page 43 to Joy. Joy grabbed the book and threw it out across the gray top. It landed plop in the bucket of black paint. All the kids behind her cheered. "You're the Poop," said Joy. Lewis's red face turned even redder. The place where his mustache used to be turned purple. "That's Mr. Poop to you," he said. Chapter 17. Why the children decided they had to get rid of Mrs. Drizzle. Lewis glow up? More like Lewis glow down. Opposite of glow up. Negative glow up. He turned into Mr. Poop. Why the children decided they had to get rid of Mrs. Drizzle. Reason number 1. She was nice. I made cookies for everyone this morning, Mrs. Drizzle announced. Everyone cheered. She thought up ways to make learning interesting. I made 5 dozen cookies, she said. There are 12 cookies in a dozen. So, who can tell me how many cookies I made? Joe waved his arm back and forth. I know, he said. Okay, Joe, said Mrs. Drizzle. How many cookies did I make? 5 dozen, Joe said proudly. Number 3. She was patient. Yes, I made 5 dozen cookies, said Mrs. Drizzle. I told you that. But how many cookies are there? 5 dozen, said Joe. But how many cookies are in 5 dozen? Asked Mrs. Drizzle. Huh? Asked Joe. How much is 12 times 5? Asked Mrs. Drizzle. Just a second, said Joe. Can I use pencil and paper? Certainly, said Mrs. Drizzle. Joe took out a piece of paper and a pencil. He wrote the number 5 on the piece of paper, then tore it into 12 pieces. 60, he said. Nobody quite understood Joe's mathematical methods. Reason number 4. She was fair. Yes, there are 60 cookies, she said, and there are 28 children in the class. So, how many cookies should each children get? Bibi raised her hand. 100, she said. You can't have 100 cookies, said Mrs. Drizzle. I only made 60. Make some more, said Bibi. I made 60, said Mrs. Drizzle. I'm not making any more. Okay, Bibi said with a sigh. I'll take 60. We have to divide them evenly, said Mrs. Drizzle. How many cookies should each child get so that every child gets the same amount? John raised his hand. Everyone can have 2 cookies, he said, and there will be 4 left over. Can I have them? Asked Bibi. Allison raised her hand. Everyone can have exactly 2 1/7 cookies, she said. Very good, Allison, said Mrs. Drizzle. And John, you were right too. She gave everyone exactly 2 1/7 cookies. Reason number 5. She was a good cook. Best cookies I ever had in my whole life, said Stephen. Everyone agreed. I got the recipe from Miss Mush, said Mrs. Drizzle. You did? Several kids said together. I just added a pinch of this and that, said Mrs. Drizzle. Number 6. She knew what a guzak was. Jason, would you please open the door? She said. Everyone gasped. What's the matter? She asked. You said the D word, said Dana. Door? Asked Mrs. Drizzle. Everyone gasped again. You're supposed to call it a guzak, explained Dana. Who said so? Asked Mrs. Drizzle. Mr. Kidswatter, said Dana. Mr. Kidswatter is a guzak, said Mrs. Drizzle. Yes, Mrs. Drizzle was smart. She was nice. She made learning interesting. She was patient and fair, and she could even make Miss Mush's cookies taste good. But she made Lewis shave off his mustache, and so she had to go. Oh boy. What is this plan? Okay, chapter 18, The Blue Notebook, starts with, they had a plan. I have to know what this plan is. Mrs. Drizzle has to get out of here, and we're gonna find out how and why they're doing it. Cookie Monster be like, cookies! That's me right now. Like, the entire time I was reading about cookies, I was just like, ugh. Oh, Cookie. Cookie, my beloved. Too many cookie. I had 3 many. I had 4 many. I had 5 many cookie. Yeah. Chapter 18. Cookie Monster Best Muppet, Best Muppet. I like Elmo. Elmo pretty cute. The Blue Notebook. They had a plan. It all depended on Shari. Everyone just hoped she wouldn't fall asleep first. Shari often fell asleep in class. Come on, Shari, thought Dee Dee. You can do it. Shari looked out the window. The sky was full of big, fluffy clouds. She yawned. The clouds looked like giant pillows. Shari imagined herself wrapped up in one of those clouds, soft and cozy. She pulled her blue and red overcoat snugly over her head. Her eyes closed. Then they opened wide. "Was that?" she shouted. "Shari?" asked Mrs. Drizzle. "Look!" shouted Shari, pointing out the window. "It's a... Hurry!" Her long eyelashes stuck straight out. Mrs. Drizzle hurried to Shari's desk. "What is it?" "A spaceship," said Shari. "From outer space." On the other side of the room, Dee Dee dropped her pencil. She bent down to pick it up, then stayed down. Dee Dee was part of the plan, too. She had a dangerous mission. She had volunteered for it. She felt it was her duty, since she was the one who had brought Lewis up to meet Mrs. Drizzle in the first place. "You don't have to do it," Ron had told her. "Mrs. Drizzle would have seen Lewis sooner or later." "No, I'll do it," Dee Dee had bravely replied. Now she crawled across the floor. Mrs. Drizzle looked out the window. "Where?" she asked. "Wait, it went behind a cloud," said Shari. "What did it look like?" asked Mrs. Drizzle. "Like a giant hamburger," said Shari. "But there was a zizzle stick hanging down from the bottom." Dee Dee crawled to the teacher's desk. She reached up and quietly opened the top drawer. She removed the blue notebook. Mrs. Drizzle stared out the window. "What's a zizzle stick?" she asked. "I don't know," Shari said very mysteriously. "They don't have them here on Earth." Dee Dee crawled safely back to her seat. At recess, everyone crowded around Dee Dee as she went through the blue notebook. "Lewis once put a frog in Mrs. Drizzle's shoe," she said. "Why wasn't her shoe on her foot?" asked Jenny. "It doesn't say," said Dee Dee. "There's a whole list of bad things Lewis did, and he made it sound like Mrs. Drizzle picked on him for no reason." "No wonder she put a trash can on his head," said Todd. "What else did he do?" asked Eric Bacon, who was always looking for new ideas. But Dee Dee had already turned the page. "There are other kids a lot worse than Lewis," she said, flipping through the pages. "What are you looking for?" asked Ron. "I don't know yet," said Dee Dee. "But I'll know when I see it." She saw it. It was a note to Mrs. Drizzle from a girl named Jane Smith. Dee Dee read it aloud. "Dear Lizard Face, guess what? I didn't do my homework again. Ha ha ha. And there's nothing you can do about it 'cause you're too stupid and ugly. Ha ha ha. My family is moving away tomorrow, and you don't know where. Ha ha ha. Rub a monkey's tummy. By the time you get this letter, I'll be gone. Rub a monkey's tummy with your head. Love and kisses, Jane Smith." Everyone was shocked. "How old is that letter?" asked Myron. Dee Dee checked the date, then did the math in her head. "Jane Smith wrote it 26 years ago. And look," said Ron, reading over Dee Dee's shoulder. "Jane didn't do her last 12 homework assignments." After recess, Shari saw the UFO again, and Dee Dee returned the notebook to Mrs. Drizzle's desk. Now all they had to do was find Jane Smith. Chapter 19, Time Out. This is starting to become a heist. That was definitely a heist chapter. Like, that was a whole heist moment. Alright, chapter 19, Time Out. Oh, this is a Miss Zarv's chapter. So we're going back to the back rooms. Didn't the Cookie Monster become the Veggie Monster? I think he only became the Veggie Monster for, like, one particular, like, campaign. I think he's still the Cookie Monster, though. So I think they were just, like, promoting healthy eating, so he became the Veggie Monster for, like, 5 seconds. But he's still the Cookie Monster. Did you know that the Cookie Monster cookies are made out of, like, pancake batter? Like, they do pancake batter, and then they, like, cook it up really crispy, so that it, when he bites them, they crumble really easily. Yeah, did you know that? Because I learned that in, like a behind-the-scenes video. It was really interesting. Because apparently people will try to eat the Cookie Monster cookies and then just be like, bleh, because they're not good. Also, I know we haven't been going very long, but, I have to pee, so I'm gonna go pee, like, really, really quick, and then we'll read chapter 19. So I will be right back, I promise.
you dance to be a big shot. Be a big bandit shot.
What is our Yuki summoning ritual? Yeah, the Yuki summoning ritual is me finishing pissing and coming back after pissing. I pissed! Go piss, girl! Oop! And I oop! Go piss, girl. Go piss, girl. That was me. Alright. Hello, asshat. Hello. Welcome. Welcome to the streams. We are reading the wonderful Wayside series. We're on chapter 19, Time Out, which looks like it's going to be a Miss Zarv's chapter. So we're gonna get some fun little Miss Zarv's lore. Alright, we are on chapter 19, Time Out. Miss Zarv's taught the class on the 19th story. There is no 19th story, and there is no Miss Zarv's. You already know all that. But how do you explain the cow in her classroom? Miss Zarv's drew a triangle on the blackboard. A triangle has 3 sides, she said, then pointed to each side. 1, 2, 3. She drew a square. A square has 4 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. She walked around the cow to the other side of the board. She drew a pentagon, a hexagon, and a perfect heptagon. A heptagon has 7 sides, she said. Miss Zarv's was very good at drawing shapes. When most people try to draw heptagons, there is always one side that sticks out funny. But Miss Zarv's heptagon was perfect. Every side was the same length, and every angle the same degree. It was a great talent, but nobody appreciated her. Nobody appreciated anything she did. It was like they didn't know she was there. She counted the sides on the heptagon. 1, 2, 3, 4. said the cow. Miss Zarves dropped her chalk. She glared at the cow. I hate this, she shouted. It was a brown cow with a white head. It's all right, Miss Zarves, said Virginia, her best student. I'll get the chalk for you. No, said Miss Zarves. Leave it where it is. The cow made me drop the chalk. The cow should pick it up. Her students gaped at her. I will not continue, said Miss Zarves, until that cow picks up the piece of chalk and draws an octagon on the board. She folded her arms across her chest, stared at the cow, and waited. Ray raised his hand. Yes, Ray, said Miss Zarves, arms still folded across her chest. Cows can't pick up chalk, said Ray. Miss Zarves sighed. I know, she said, and I can't teach with a cow in my classroom. No one had ever seen Miss Zarves so upset. She usually had a pleasant disposition. It's okay, Miss Zarves, said Virginia. I don't mind the cow. You get used to it after a while, said Ray. What cow? Asked Nick. Oh, that one. I forgot it was there. Miss Zarves smiled. She knew her students were trying to make her feel better. Other classrooms have goldfish or hamsters, said Virginia. It's really no different. No, said Miss Zarves. I won't have it. All my life I've tried to be accommodating. I've never been one to complain, and what has it gotten me? A cow! She shook her head. When I was a little girl, my friends never did what I wanted to do, she said. I always had to do whatever they wanted to do. And my teacher never called on me in class. She always called on the kids who just shouted out without raising their hands, even though she said she wouldn't. She'd say, I won't call on you if you don't raise your hand. But then she always did anyway. But I was a good girl. I never shouted out. And she always did things alphabetically, so I was always last, if there was time for me at all. My parents were too busy for me. They were always dressing up and going out to fancy parties. I had to tuck myself in at night and wish myself sweet dreams. She took a tissue out of her sleeve and wiped a tear from her eye. Still, I always tried to keep a smile on my face. Well, not any more. The day of walk all over Miss Zarves are finish. She threw open her classroom door. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. What are you going to do? asked Virginia. I'm going out there, said Miss Zarves, and I'm not coming back until I get some grease. She stepped outside. She decided she'd go right to the top, so she headed down the stairs to the principal's office. Joy and Mauricia were coming up the stairs. Todd is uglier than stupid, said Mauricia. You're crazy, said Joy. He's stupider than ugly. Ooh, teased Mauricia. I'm going to tell Todd you think he's cute. Miss Zarves stepped in front of them. What are you children doing out of class? She asked. I didn't say he was cute, said Joy. He's just not as ugly as he is stupid. That means you think he's handsome, said Mauricia. Are you going to marry him? I asked you a question, said Miss Zarves. Ugh, gross, said Joy. I'm a teacher, said Miss Zarves. That means you are supposed to listen to me. Joy and Mauricia walked right past her. Miss Zarves sighed, then continued down to Mr. Kidswatter's office. She took a deep breath to steady her nerves. She was about to knock, but then changed her mind and just marched right in. Hey, Kidswatter, I want to talk to you. The principal was making a rubber band ball. Do you hear me? Asked Miss Zarves. He opened his desk drawer and looked for some more rubber bands. If you don't answer me right now, said Miss Zarves, I'm walking out the door and never coming back. Mr. K pressed the buzzer on his phone. Miss Knight, you need to order more rubber bands. That's it, said Miss Zarves. I'm leaving. Goodbye. I quits. She walked out of the school and took a deep breath of fresh air. "Please don't go, Miss Zarves," said a voice behind her. Startled, she turned around. "We need you," said a bald-headed man. He was standing between two other men. Both had black mustaches, and one carried a black attaché case. The bald man didn't have a mustache. "Can you see me?" she asked. "Yes, of course," said the bald man. "And we appreciate all your hard work." "You do?" All three nodded very sincerely. Miss Zarves was touched. "I've been teaching for 30 years, she said, "and nobody has ever said that before." "Well, it's not easy being a teacher," said the bald man. "I don't get any respect," said Miss Zarves. "People treat me like I'm a nobody." "It's not easy being a teacher," said the man with the attaché case. "You have to work long hours for very little money." "I've never gotten paid," said Miss Zarves. "And this is the first time in 30 years I've ever left the building." "It's not easy being a teacher," agreed the other man with the mustache. "Even the book I'm reading to my class," said Miss Zarves, "the author makes fun of teachers." "It's a tragedy," said the bald man. "Then why do it?" asked Miss Zarves. "Why teach any more? I could quit and nobody would care." "The children need you," all three men said together. Miss Zarves sighed. "I like to teach," she said. "I really do. I love the children. It's just—" She stopped and wiped her eyes. The man with the attaché case opened it. He took out a handkerchief and handed it to Miss Zarves. "Thank you," she said, blew her nose, then gave it back to him. He placed it back in his attaché case. "Can you at least get the cow out of my classroom?" she asked. The bald man smiled. "I'll see what I can do," he said. Miss Zarves smiled as she slowly shook her head. Then she turned and walked back into the building. Miss Zarves.
"Bitch, I'm a cow. Bitch, I'm a cow. I'm not a cat. I don't say meow. Moo."
Chapter 20. Elevators. Ooh. Mr. Kidswatter's voice came over the loudspeaker. "Good morning, boys and girls." There was the usual pause. "I have a very important announcement," said Mr. K. "Elevators have been installed in Wayside School." For a second, the kids on the 30th floor were too stunned to speak. Then everyone went crazy. "Yahoo!" yelled Shari. "Hot diggity dog!" shouted Damien. Everyone was yelling and jumping. "Zippity-doo-dah!" shouted Mrs. Drizzle. Cheers could be heard coming from every classroom in Wayside School. The higher the classroom, the louder the cheers. "Now, before you all rush out and use the elevators, I want to talk a little bit about elevator safety. I don't want the same kind of chaos that we have on the stairs every day. I don't know how many times I have to tell you. When you go up the stairs, stay to the right. When you come down the stairs, stay to the left. But still, everyone keeps bumping into each other. Well, that won't happen on the elevators. I have personally designed a special safety system. There are 2 elevators. One is blue, one is red. When you want to go up, you take the blue elevator. When you want to go down, you take the red elevator. It's that simple. It can't go wrong. The blue one only goes up, and the red one only goes down. By the way, has anyone seen my coffee pot? And so, at last, Wayside School got elevators. A blue one and a red one. They each worked perfectly one time. and could never be used again. Chapter 21. Open Wide. The good news. Jason got to leave school early. The bad news? He had a dentist appointment. "I'll never ever eat candy again," he promised the tooth god as he headed down the stairs. "And I'll brush my teeth after every meal, I promise. Even if it's just a snack. I'll bring my toothbrush to school. Just please, please don't let her find any cavities." "I've heard that song before," answered a voice in his head. "Every time you go to the dentist, it's the same thing." But then, a week later, you're eating candy and forgetting to brush your teeth. "This time, I really, really mean it," Jason promised. "Too late," said the voice. Tooth God? Tooth God. An hour later, Jason was lying on his back in the dentist chair. "Open," said the dentist. His dentist was named Dr. Payne. She had long fingers and even longer fingernails. Jason opened his big mouth. He had the second biggest mouth in his class. "Wider," said Dr. Payne. Jason stretched his mouth until his cheeks hurt. "That's good," said Dr. Payne. "Now just a little bit wider." The veins in Jason's neck bulged out as he stretched his mouth even wider. His eyes watered. His throat was dry. "Okay, just hold it like that," said Dr. Payne. She turned on the sucking machine and put a tube in Jason's mouth. Sucking machine, hey! The machine made a gagging noise as it sucked out his last drop of moisture. As Dr. Payne poked around at his teeth, she said, "T, t," and "oh my," several times. "So, how do you like school?" she asked. "Oh," said Jason. "What grade are you in?" "Oh," said Jason. "Well, just remember," said Dr. Payne, "it's very important to always listen to your teachers and do whatever they say." She poked a tooth with a long, pointed dentist tool. "Oh!" Jason screamed in agony. "Did that hurt?" asked Dr. Payne. Jason shook his head. If he told her it hurt, she might think it was a cavity. If she couldn't find it herself, he certainly wasn't going to tell her about it. "Are you sure?" asked Dr. Payne. She poked the same spot. This time, Jason didn't make a sound. Tears and sweat dripped down his face. The receptionist came into the room. "Yes," said Dr. Payne. Jason was glad for the break. "Kendall's mother is on the phone," said the receptionist. "She refuses to pay her bill." "What?" exclaimed Dr. Payne. "How dare! She says you pulled the wrong tooth." "Give me the phone!" shouted Dr. Payne. The receptionist handed it to her. "This is Dr. Payne. What do you mean you're not paying your bill?" "Well, then just bring Kendall back in here and I'll pull that one too. I'll pull them all. But you still have to pay me." "Your lawyer? I don't care what your lawyer said. You can tell your lawyer to rub a monkey's tummy." "You heard me! Rub a monkey's tummy with your head!" She slammed down the phone. Jason looked at the diploma hanging on the wall. Before his dentist got married, her name was Jane Smith. His big mouth opened wider. "Ooh, Jane Smith! They were looking for Jane Smith!" Chapter 22. Jane Smith. "I found Jane Smith," Jason told Stephen the next morning when he got to school. "You better tell Dee Dee," said Stephen. They hurried across the playground. A whistle blew. "No running," ordered Mr. Lewis, the professional playground supervisor. "Now I want both of you to go back to the edge of the blacktop and walk this time." At least it wasn't John Smith. How do you know? The boys went back the way they came, then came back the way they went. Dee Dee was sitting on a bench. She had been benched by Mr. Lewis for excessive noise-making. "I found Jane Smith," Jason whispered as he walked past her. Dee Dee and Jason entered the classroom together. Mrs. Drizzle was seated behind her desk. As they passed in front of her, Dee Dee stopped and said, "Did you have a nice time at the dentist yesterday, Jason?" "Yes, Dee Dee," said Jason. "It was very nice." "Her name is Dr. Payne," said Jason, "but that hasn't always been her name." "It hasn't?" asked Dee Dee. "Oh, no," said Jason. "Before she was married, her name was Jane Smith." "Jane Smith?" asked Dee Dee. "Is that spelled Janesmith?" "Yes, that's how you spell Jane Smith," said Jason. "But like I said, that's not her name anymore. Her name is Dr. Payne. She works at the dentist office at 124 Garden Street." They took their seats. Late that afternoon, Dr. Payne finished work and walked out of her office. It had been a good day. She had drilled 25 teeth. She made $60 for every tooth she drilled. 25 times $60 is $1,500. Not bad for a day's work. Of course, not all the teeth really had cavities, but how would any of her patients find out? She got into her fancy silver and black sports car and drove away. She sang along with the radio. She didn't even notice the beat-up old green station wagon in her rear-view mirror. She lived in a mansion next to the lake. There was a stone wall around her house. She pressed a button in her car, and an iron gate opened. The gate closed behind her as she headed up the long and winding driveway. A moment later, the old green station wagon stopped and parked next to the gate. A woman got out, walked around to the back, and opened the tailgate. She pulled out a ladder. She set the ladder up against the wall. Under her arm, she carried an old blue notebook. Dr. Payne's butler handed her a drink. The cook was making dinner. Dr. Payne's dog, cat, and husband were waiting for her in the den. Her dog's name was Brussels, and her cat's name was Sprouts. She petted them both. Her husband's name was Sham. She petted him too. "Hi, darling, how was your day?" he asked. "I made $1,500, said Jane. They hugged and kissed. They loved each other, but they loved money even more. Then they had dinner by candlelight, and they watched the sun set over the lake. After dinner, they sat out on the deck under the stars. Sprouts lay purring on Jane's lap. Brussels sat faithfully by her side. Life was perfect. "I love you, darling," she said, petting Sprouts. "And I love you," said Sham. "I was talking to the cat," said Jane. The butler stepped out onto the deck. "Excuse me, madam," he said, "but there is an elderly woman out in the yard." Jane's long fingernails dug into her cat's neck. "I wonder how she got past the gate," said Sham. "I don't know, sir," said the butler. "She's probably hungry. Perhaps I can give her some leftover." "No!" shouted Jane. "Get rid of her!" "Let me have a look," said Sham. He followed the butler back into the house. He returned a moment later. "Darling, you'll never guess who's here. One of your former teachers. Isn't that just the sweetest?" Jane screamed. She jumped to her feet. Sprouts flew off her lap and into the hot tub. "What's wrong?" asked Sham. "You idiot!" shouted Jane. I told you to get rid of her! She kicked her dog out of the way, then climbed over the railing and jumped off the deck to the ground, 15 feet below. Mrs. Drizzle came out onto the deck. "You can't get away from me, young lady," she hollered. Jane hurt her ankle pretty badly when she hit the ground. It was either sprained or broken. She lay on the ground in agony as she looked up at her former teacher. "You have homework to do," said Mrs. Drizzle, looking down at her. Jane's face twisted with pain. "Rub a monkey's tummy!" she shouted, then struggled to her feet. She had a suitcase stashed in the boathouse, just in case this ever happened. She hobbled to it, grabbed it, then limped down to the lake, dragging her suitcase behind her. Mrs. Drizzle hurried down the steps on the side of the deck. Jane groaned as she threw her suitcase into a motorboat. Then she pulled herself aboard and started the engine. "Darling, come back!" Sham shouted from the deck as he watched the boat sputter across the water. Mrs. Drizzle climbed into an old rowboat. "I'll find you, Jane Smith," she shouted into the darkness. "You can run, but you can't hide." Jane's voice echoed back across the black water. "Rub a monkey's tummy with your head!" And neither of them was ever seen again. Chapter 23. Wendy had 3 ears, Chapter 23, ears. Excuse me. Chapter 23, ears. We're reading about ears now. We're talking about ears. So if you guys have ever wanted to read Chapter 23, ears, that's what we're going to be reading now, in case you didn't know. Chapter 23, ears. Wendy had 3 ears, She had 1 ear on each side of her head, just like most people. But she also had a 3rd ear, which lay flat on top of her head. You couldn't see it. It was completely covered by her thick, frizzy brown hair. She was an intelligent and lovely young woman. She was gentle and kind. At least she used to be. Then she met Xavier and became evil and wicked. But I'll get to that later. She lived in a small apartment in the big city. She always kept fresh flowers in a vase on her kitchen table. She didn't have any friends. She was afraid someone might find out about her ear. She was very embarrassed by it. The one on top of her head, The other 2 ears were pretty, as ears go. Actually, the 3rd ear wasn't ugly. In fact, it looked just like her other 2. It was quantity, not quality, that bothered her. Then she met Xavier. It was at a museum. They happened to be standing next to each other looking at the same painting, the Mona Lisa. A guard stood by to make sure they didn't touch it. Xavier was very handsome, but he was frightfully shy. He was afraid of women. "That's a beautiful painting, isn't it?" said Wendy. Xavier blushed. He wanted to speak, but his mouth locked shut with fear. It took all his courage just to nod his head. But Wendy knew he liked her. "Because there was something else about her ear I haven't told you yet. The one on top of her head, It didn't hear normal sounds. It heard people's brains." Wendy was able to listen to Xavier's secret thoughts, and this is what she heard. "Yes, the painting is very beautiful, but you're more beautiful than the Mona Lisa. I wish somebody would paint your picture. I would buy it and look at it all day. Alas, if only I had the courage to talk to you." Wendy didn't usually listen to other people's thoughts. She thought it was rude, even though the other people didn't know she was listening. Besides, most people's thoughts were usually boring. Xavier was getting too nervous standing next to her. He moved on to another painting. Wendy followed him. She listened to the lonely man's thoughts. They weren't boring at all. Most of his thoughts were about hers, but she also learned a few other things. He liked to read. His favorite author was Charles Dickens. He loved animals, especially dogs. "This painting reminds me of a book," said Wendy. "A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. Have you read it?" "Yes," Xavier blurted a little too loudly. "It's my favorite book. I've read everything Dickens has written. Twice. My favorite part is when—" He suddenly stopped, very embarrassed. "Please, go on," said Wendy. "No, I don't want to bother you," said Xavier. "You're not bothering me," said Wendy. "Charles Dickens is my favorite author. I sometimes read aloud to my dog." "You have a dog?" asked Xavier. Wendy nodded. Xavier stared into her dark eyes. "I love dogs," he said, as his brain said, "I love you." Wendy and Xavier spent the afternoon together. He could hardly stop talking. It was like a genie had escaped from a bottle. All the love and emotion that had been buried for so long inside him came pouring out on Wendy. "I don't even know your name," he suddenly blurted. "Wendy Nogard," said Wendy. "I'm Xavier Dalton," said Xavier. They shook hands and made plans to meet again at the museum the following week. On their way home, Wendy stopped at the library and checked out A Tale of Two Cities. Then she went to the pet store and bought a dog. A month later, Xavier asked her to marry him. Wendy didn't know what to say. She loved Xavier, and she knew he loved her, but she still hadn't told him about her ear. The one on top of her head, I mean. He knew about the other two. He had nibbled on each of them. "Marriage is a big step," she said. "I'm afraid we haven't known each other long enough." "I've known you long enough to know I could never be happy without you," said Xavier. "Before I met you, Wendy, I was sad and lonely, but I was used to it. Now I can't imagine living like that again. I don't know what I'd do without you." He stroked her hair. "Well, there's one little thing you don't know about me," said Wendy. His hand bumped into it. "What's this thing?" he asked. "That's what I was going to tell you about, dear," said Wendy. Xavier parted Wendy's hair and looked at it. "It's an ear!" he exclaimed. "Yes, it is," said Wendy. "Some people have 2 ears. I have 3. Now that you know, if you still want to marry me, my answer is yes. Yes, sweetheart, yes." "I love you," said Xavier. "That's all that matters to me." That was what he said. But this is what he was thinking. "Oh, gross! You're disgusting! I never want to touch you again. I can't even stand to look at you. You tricked me, you freak! You monster!" And of course, Wendy heard every word. He stood up. "I'll be right back, sweetheart. I bought you diamond earrings as an engagement present. I just need to run back to the jewelry store and buy one more." He hurried out the door. She never saw him again. I'm sorry to say this story has a sad ending. Xavier, thanks to Wendy, got over his shyness. He went out with lots of women, but broke each one's hearts. He could never love any of them. There was a hole in his heart. He was in love with Wendy Nogard, but he didn't know it, and so he could never be happy. Wendy became a bitter and evil person. She was unhappy, and she wanted everyone else to be unhappy too. Whenever she heard someone thinking happy thoughts, she would listen closely and then do and say just the right thing to make the person feel rotten. She hated children the most. Every time she passed a playground, she heard them laughing and having fun. So she became a substitute teacher. Dun, dun, dun! Chapter 24. Glum and Blah. Miss Nogard entered the classroom on the 30th story. She looked at the bright and chipper faces. She knew by the end of the day they would no longer be bright and chipper. They would be glum and blah. She smiled at the class. "Good morning, everybody," she said. "My name is Miss Nogard." She listened to their brains. Calvin had spilled orange juice on his lap during breakfast and worried that someone might think he'd gone to the bathroom in his pants. Dana had gotten her hair cut yesterday, and she thought it was too short. She was afraid it made her look like a boy. She was especially sensitive to this because Dana was sometimes a boy's name. It's like a Twilight movie gone insane a little bit. Jason was mad at his older brother, Justin. Justin was in high school. Justin always got good grades and was a star in everything he did. Compared to Justin, Jason felt like a loser. "What's so great about high school?" he had asked this morning. "My school is higher than yours." DJ had heard a song on the radio on his way to school. He hated the song, but it kept playing over and over again in his head. BB had an itch on her leg. Miss Nogard's smile. The bad stuff always rose to the top of the brain. Even if a person was very excited about something wonderful, the person still worried about what could go wrong. Jenny was going horseback riding after school, if it didn't rain. She had never gone horseback riding before. She hoped she wouldn't fall off the horse. Miss Nogard clapped her hands. "So, who would like to tell me what you've been working on?" she asked. A few hands went up in the air. "Ooh, ooh," said Mac. "How about the boy in the orange and purple shirt?" said Miss Nogard. Everyone looked around. "The handsome young man sitting right there," said Miss Nogard. Dana looked at her shirt. It was orange and purple. She pointed at herself and mouthed the word, "Me?" "Yes, you," said Miss Nogard. Dana's face turned red hot. "I'm a girl," she said. Everyone laughed. "Oh, I'm so embarrassed," said Miss Nogard, with her hand over her heart. "It's not your fault," said Dana. "It's my stupid haircut. I hate it." "Oh, no," said Miss Nogard. "You look adorable. I see now you're a very pretty girl." "I'm ugly," muttered Dana. She buried her head under her arms. "I'd better call on someone else," said Miss Nogard. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a brain screamed, "Don't call on me! Whatever you do, please don't call on me!" It came from Benjamin Nushmut. "How about you?" said Miss Nogard, looking right at him. "Just don't ask me my name," thought Benjamin. "I can never say my name in front of people." He took a breath to steady himself. "Well, we've been reading. First, tell me your name," Miss Nogard said sweetly. The muscles in Benjamin's face tightened. He concentrated real hard, then said, "Benjamin Nushmut." "I beg your pardon?" said Miss Nogard. "Benjamin Nushmut," he repeated. "Henderson Smith?" Benjamin sighed. "Benjamin Nushmut," he shouted. "I'm sorry," said Miss Nogard. "I must have been distracted. What did you say?" Benjamin pressed his lips together. He tried to speak, but his mouth wouldn't open. "His name is Benjamin," said Jason. "Benjamin Nushmut." "Thank you," said Miss Nogard. "That's a very nice name, Benjamin. You shouldn't be ashamed of it." Benjamin covered his red face with his hands. She turned to Jason. "You look familiar. Do I know you?" "Ben deserves respect. For real. It's already bad that he's saddled with a name like Benjamin Nushmut." "I don't think so," said Jason. She stared at him, as if she were trying to remember. "You're Justin, right?" "I'm Jason. Justin's my older brother." "So you're Justin's baby brother," said Miss Nogard. Everybody laughed. I remember Justin. I substituted for his class once. He was the brightest student I ever taught. You must feel very lucky to have such an exceptional brother. His feet stink, thought Jason. For the rest of the day, Miss Nogard kept accidentally on purpose calling Jason Justin. One by one, she made every child in the class feel miserable. She called Calvin to her desk and asked in a whisper if he had to use the restroom. Whenever she passed DJ, she hummed and the song stuck in his head. Whenever Bibi finally stopped thinking about her itch, Miss Nogard would walk by and scratch her own leg. It looks like it might rain, she said as she stared out the window at the bright blue sky. Darn, I'll never get to go horseback riding, thought Jenny. I have a nephew who went horseback riding on a day like this, said Miss Nogard. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, it started thundering and lightning. It spooked the horse terribly. What happened to your nephew? Asked Jenny. Oh, he's fine, said Miss Nogard. He just broke both his arms and legs. He'll be in a cast for a year, but he has a very positive attitude. That's the important thing. Remember, always keep a positive attitude. By the end of the day, nobody had a positive attitude. The whole class was glum and blah. The children walked out of the school building, heads down, except Jenny, who looked up at the sky, worrying about the weather, although she didn't know if she was more worried about rain or sunshine. Even DJ was frowning. What's the matter? Asked Lewis, the yard teacher. Nothing, muttered DJ. I guess I just had a bad day. Don't you like your new teacher? Asked Lewis. She's real nice, said Dana. It's not her fault I'm the ugliest girl in the world. I like her a lot, said Jason. It's my brother I hate. Me too, said Benjamin. I hate myself. Lewis rubbed his upper lip. His mustache was beginning to grow back. What's her name? He asked. Miss Nogard, said Bibi as she scratched the back of her leg raw. Are you sure? Asked Lewis. Huh? Asked Bibi. I mean, said Lewis, are you sure it's Miss Nogard, not Mrs. Nogard? I think, said Bibi. Why? Lewis just shrugged. Chapter 25. Guilty. I'm really enjoying the different arcs of all the different substitute teachers. I think that's a really funny, it's a really funny gimmick for a book. And I'm enjoying all the extra characters. And we've been introduced to a lot of, extra additional characters to the lore of the world in this book. And I'm really enjoying it so far. Chapter 25. Guilty. Some of the children were working in their workbooks, others were reading in their readers, and still others were computing on the computer. Miss Nogard looked from one to another. Eeny, meeny, miny, Mauricia, she thought. Mauricia was stamping a stamp. Mauricia, said Miss Nogard, will you come here, please? Mauricia walked to the front of the room. Yes, she said cheerfully. Don't yes me, young lady, said Miss Nogard. You know what you did. Mauricia looked back at her teacher. What did I do? She wondered. Miss Nogard waited patiently. Everyone was guilty of something. I didn't do anything, did I? Thought Mauricia. I've been good, I think, unless she found out about that dictionary page I accidentally tore. No, she couldn't know about that. It happened before she even got here, and I don't think anybody saw me do it. I didn't do anything, she said. She probably should have told Mrs. Jules about it, she realized. But it wasn't even my fault. I was looking up how to spell journey for my journal, and the page just ripped all by itself. It's one thing to do something wrong, Mauricia, said Miss Nogard, but when you do, you should admit to it. We all make mistakes, but when you lie about it, you make matters much worse for yourself. Mauricia nodded as she tried to figure out what to do. If Miss Nogard knew she tore the dictionary page, then of course she should admit to it. There was no way Miss Nogard could know. It was impossible.
I don't know what you mean, she said. I didn't do anything wrong.
She smiled at her teacher. Miss Nogard stared at her a long moment, then said, "Will you please bring me the dictionary?" The smile dropped off Mauricia's face and crashed to the floor. The dictionary lay on top of the bookcase. Mauricia numbly went after it.
How could she know? She wondered. It's impossible. Maybe she just wants to look up a word.
She carried the heavy book back to Miss Nogard. "Thank you, Mauricia," said Miss Nogard, flipping through the pages. Flipping through the pages. I'm good at reading, I promise. "I need to look up journey." Mauricia couldn't take it any longer.
"I ripped it!" she cried out. "I tore the dictionary. I'm sorry, I don't even know how it happened. I was just turning the page, really. Maybe pages only have a certain amount of turns in them, like 999. Then when you turn the page for the 1000th time, it'll rip, no matter who turns it."
Miss Nogard shook her head sadly. "I'm very disappointed in you," she said. "Not only did you vandalize the dictionary, but then you lied about it. I thought I could trust you, Mauricia. I guess I was wrong."
"I'm a horrible person," Mauricia agreed. "I'm sorry."
"Don't apologize to me," said Miss Nogard. "It's not my dictionary. It belongs to the class." Mauricia had to stand in front of the class and tell them she was sorry. Then, since nobody would ever be able to use that page again, she had to read it aloud to the class. She struggled through the difficult words like journalism and judicious. "Speak up," Miss Nogard had to keep reminding her. "And everyone needs to pay close attention, because there will be a test on it when Mauricia is finished."
"Hey, that's not fair," complained Jason. "We didn't rip the dictionary. Why should we be punished?"
"It's not punishment," said Miss Nogard. "It's for your own good. Since you can no longer use that page, you need to memorize it."
"Thanks a lot, Mauricia," griped Jenny.
When Mauricia finished reading it, Miss Nogard made her turn the page over and read the backside of it, too.
"But I only ripped the front of it," said Mauricia. "Not the back."
She finished. Then she returned to her seat, angry and upset. She wasn't angry at Miss Nogard. Miss Nogard was just being fair, she thought. But there was only one way Miss Nogard could have known about the torn page, she realized. Somebody in the class must have seen her tear it and then tattled on her. She looked around the room, from Dee Dee to Todd to Terrence to Joy. She didn't trust any of them. One of her friends was a no-good, dirty, double-crossing snake in the grass. Okay. Yeah. This is building towards a pretty fun conclusion where we're gonna find out that Miss Jules is gonna come back and they're gonna defeat Miss Nogard, but in the meantime, there's gonna be a lot of chaos. So that's really, really fun. I'm really enjoying it. Chapter 26. Never laugh at a shoelace.
"This is a shoelace," said Mac.
Everybody laughed. Mac was standing at the front of the room, holding his shoelace in his hand. He felt like a fool.
"What a fool," said Allison.
It all started a minute earlier when Miss Nogard asked, "Who has something to share for show and tell?" But first, you should know something about Mac. Mac's favorite subject in the whole world was show and tell. He loved it, especially when he was the one doing the showing and telling. He often looked through garbage cans on his way to school in search of stuff to show and tell about. Once he found a real gushy love letter. It was covered with something that looked like peach slime. But that wasn't what made it gushy. The gushy part was what was written in the letter. Mac read it to the class with lots of feeling. So when Miss Nogard said, Who has something to share for show and tell? Mac reacted without thinking. His arm shot up like a rocket as he almost jumped out of his seat. Ooh! Ooh! He groaned. Then he remembered something. I didn't bring anything for show and tell! Miss Nogard heard him. Before he could lower his hand, she called on him. And that was how he ended up with his shoelace dangling from his hand like a dead worm. It came from my sneaker, he said. He took off his sneaker and held it up too, next to his shoelace. See, you stick the laces through the little holes here and tie it in a bow. That keeps it from falling off your foot. Duh, said Dana. We know what a shoelace is, said Paul. I've been tying my shoes since I was 2 years old, said Joe. Calvin and Bebe booed. Sit down, said Jason. You're boring. The kids in Miss Jewel's class never used to be so mean, but they'd been getting grumpier and grumpier ever since Miss Nogard took over. Put your shoe back on, said Mauricia. Your foot stinks. Mac felt terrible. Miss Nogard smiled. Go on, Mac, she said. We're all very interested to hear what you have to say. He tried to think of some way to make a shoelace interesting. Shoelaces are real important, he said. There was once this guy. He was a real fast runner. His name was Howard. Howard Speed. He was the fastest runner in the world, but this was back before shoelaces were invented. And so every time Howard raced, he ran right out of his shoes. Nobody seemed very impressed, but then Rondi asked, Did it hurt his feet? Mac shrugged. I guess, he said. I once stubbed my toe on a rock, said Stephen. It hurt. Yeah, and you didn't run as fast as Howard Speed, said Mac. He ran so fast that if he kicked a rock, he would break his toe. Did he have blisters? Asked Todd. Mac smiled. Man, he had the biggest blisters you ever saw in your whole life. Bleeding blisters. Ooh, Joe and John said together. With pus oozing out, said Mac. Oh, gross, said Dana, wide-eyed. Everyone was paying close attention to Mac now. Wherever Howard went, said Mac, he left a trail of bloody footprints. Cool, said Terrence. And so they had to invent something to keep Howard's sneakers on his feet, said Mac. First, they just tried nailing his shoes to his feet. Yowza! Bebe exclaimed. Why didn't he just use Velcro? Asked Jason. Howard lived in Africa, explained Mac. Velcro trees only grow in Australia, so then they tried gluing his shoes to his feet, and that seemed to work. But then, whenever he took off his shoes, like to take a bath or something, he'd peel off a layer of skin. Yuckola! Shrieked Allison. But finally, Thomas Edison invented the shoelace, and Howard never ran out of his shoes again. Did he win all of his races after that? Asked John. Well, said Mac, the next race was for the championship of the whole world. Howard got off to a real fast start. It looked like he would win for sure. But shoelaces were still a new invention, and Howard wasn't quite used to them yet. Right before he reached the finish line, his shoelace came untied. He tripped over it and fell flat on his face. He broke his nose, lost all his teeth, and had 2 black eyes. Wow, said all 3 Erics together. So remember, said Mac as he held his shoelace high in the air, never laugh at a shoelace. Everyone applauded. And then everyone clapped. Everyone clapped. Everyone clapped. That's how fake that fake story was. Everyone clapped. Chapter 27. Way High Up Ball. Eric Fry, Eric Bacon, and Eric Ovens were playing Way High Up Ball. They had made up the game themselves. All you needed were two things: a pink rubber ball, about the size of a tennis ball, and a real tall school. Eric Ovens threw the ball way high up. It bounced off the school, just above the third-story window. "Three-pointer!" called Eric Bacon. They shoved and elbowed each other out of the way as they waited for it to come down. At the last second, Eric Fry jumped and caught it. He got 3 points. Eric Ovens also got 3 points since he was the thrower. Eric Fry threw the ball way high up. It bounced off a window on the 5th floor. "Five-pointer!" called Eric Ovens. All 3 Erics jumped for it. It bounced off their fingertips and hit the ground. The teacher on the 5th story stuck her head out the window. "Hey, what's going on down there?" she shouted. The 3 Erics looked away and whistled. "There's one more thing about Way High Up Ball I haven't told you. You're not allowed to play it." The Erics had already broken 1 window. Eric Bacon looked up, surprised. "Are you talking to us?" he asked. "Something just banged against my window," said the teacher. "Was it a bird?" asked Eric Ovens. The teacher stared at the children a moment longer. Then she pulled her head inside. Eric Fry threw the ball way high up. It was a 6-pointer. All 3 fought for position as they waited for it to come down. But at the last second, a hairy arm reached above them and caught it. The arm belonged to Lewis, the yard teacher. "Can I play?" asked Lewis. His mustache had grown back completely. "Sure," all 3 Erics said together. "What do I have to do?" asked Lewis. "Just see how high up against the school you can throw it," said Eric Fry. "Hi, I'm Lagu." Hey, I'm Lagu. Don't you have another redeem you want to redeem? Don't you have another one that you like to do? Huh? Aren't you gonna redeem another redeem? Not that one! I mean, yeah, that's a good one, but not that one, the other one! The other one! Ew, you farted! I changed the fart message so that it says you farted. I'm glad that it works now, because it wasn't working for a little while there. So I'm glad. Thank you for being my test monkey. Thank you for being my tester. I appreciate that. Points and screams. "Ha ha, you fell for it. You fell for it. You were my test monkey. You were my test monkey and you fell for it. Ha ha. Ha ha." Guinea pig moment. You are the guinea pig. The guineast of pig. The piggiest of guineas. All right. "What do I have to do?" asked Lewis. "Just see how high up against the school you can throw it," said Eric Fry. Lewis gripped the ball tightly in his hand. He reached way back, then let it fly. "Whoa!" the 3 Erics said together as they watched the ball soar up into the air. It hit up above the 8-story window. Then Lewis caught his own rebound. 16 points, said Eric Bacon. "Throw it again, Lewis," said Eric Ovens. Now that Lewis was playing, lots of kids from all over the playground came to play too. Lewis threw the ball way up high. It hit the 11th story, then bounced back over everyone's head. There was a mad scramble for the ball. BB finally came up with it. "Give it to Lewis," said Eric Ovens. No, let Bebe throw it, said Louis, who always tried to be fair. Bebe threw a 2-pointer. Jason caught it on the rebound. You want to throw it, Louis? He asked. No, you go ahead, said Louis. Jason threw a glopper. A glopper is when the ball goes straight up in the air and comes down without touching the building. Eric Bacon caught it. Here, Louis, he said. No, you throw it, said Louis. But you can throw it so much higher, said Eric B. We want to see how high you can throw it, Louis, said Leslie. Come on, Louis. Louis shook his head. The game is for you kids, not for me. Miss Nogard is watching, said Bebe slyly. Louis glanced at Miss Nogard, who was standing just outside the front door. Give me the ball, he said. The kids cheered. Louis reached way down, almost to the ground, then hurled it up with all his might. The ball reached the 15th floor, halfway up the school. Wow! Everyone said together. I got it, called Terrence as he circled under the ball, waiting for it to come down. His knees wobbled. The ball bounced off his face. Cool, he said as the blood flowed out of his nose. That was a world record, Louis, exclaimed Eric Ovens. Louis smiled proudly. He turned to look at Miss Nogard, but she had already gone inside. You like Miss Nogard, don't you? Asked Bebe. She seems like a nice person, said Louis. She's pretty, too, said Eric Bacon as he nudged Louis in the side. Well, she is kind of cute, Louis admitted. Ooh, said Joy. But do you love her? Asked Jenny. Everyone giggled. Louis's red face got even redder. You should ask her out on a date, said Eric Fry. No, I don't think that's a very good idea, said Louis. Why not? Asked Eric Ovens. I think you two would make a real cute couple. Bring her flowers, said Dana. Buy her candy, said Mauricia. Tell her she's got eyes like the moon, said Bebe. Eyes like the moon? Asked Louis. Girls love it when you tell them that, said Bebe. Forget that gushy stuff, said Eric Bacon. Just walk right up to her and say, Hey, baby, how about a date? Just like that? Asked Louis. This is what you do, said Terrence. You take her to a real scary movie, and then at the scary part, you put your arm around her. Ooh, said Dana and Jenny. No, take her dancing, said Myron, and hold her real close. Ooh, said the 3 Erics. Louis laughed. You kids are crazy, he said. You're scared of her, aren't you? Asked Eric Bacon. You shouldn't be scared, said Eric Ovens. You're bigger and stronger and faster than anyone on the playground. And you've got the best mustache, too, said Eric Fry. I'm not afraid of her, Louis tried to explain. It's just... He looked up at the very tall school. Miss Nogard is way high up there, and I way down low here. You'll understand someday when you're older. He picked up the ball and threw it way high up. It hit somewhere between the 18th and 20th story. It never came down. There was no 19th story. They're really teasing him. They're really teasing him. Chapter 28. Flowers for a very special person. Of course, Miss Nogard knew all about Louis. The children's brains were buzzing about him. Louis likes Miss Nogard, thought Stephen. Louis is in love with Miss Nogard, thought Todd. Louis wants to marry Miss Nogard, thought Shari. But even if she couldn't listen to their brains, she would have found out anyway. Louis, the yard teacher, is madly in love with you, said Jenny. Oh, really? Said Miss Nogard. He dreams about you every night, said Calvin. He thinks your eyes are like the moon, said Bebe. Miss Nogard smiled. Do you like him? Asked Jenny. He's kind of cute, said Miss Nogard. Ooh, Bibi and Calvin said together. What about his mustache? Asked Jenny. Do you like his mustache? Miss Nogard thought a moment. It would probably tickle if he kissed me. The children gasped as their mouths fell open. They returned to their desks and told everyone around them what Miss Nogard said. Miss Nogard smiled. She wondered just how she'd break Louis's heart. Ever since Xavier broke her heart, she'd become an expert at breaking other people's. She listened to men's brain and knew just what to say to make them fall in love with her. And then she knew just the right thing to say at just the right moment to shatter their hearts into 1,000,000 pieces. Even the biggest and strongest man would cry like a baby. She was incapable of love. Her heart was clogged with bitterness and hate. And besides, she knew no one could ever love someone with 3 ears. For a second, she felt a pang of sadness, because she really did think Louis was kind of cute, like a puppy dog. She could almost feel the tickle of his mustache. Miss Nogard thinks you're cute, Jenny told Louis at recess. She's hot for you, Louis, said Mac. She wants to kiss you, said Bibi. Come on, let's play kickball, said Louis. They played kickball, but it was weird. Louis, who was probably the best kickball player ever, did terribly. He tripped over the ball when he tried to kick it, and when Terrence kicked a pop-up, Louis tried to catch it, but the ball bounced off his head. What's wrong with Louis? Asked Ron. Is he sick or something? Yeah, said Jenny. He's got a real bad disease, and it's spelled Love. The next morning, Louis came to school with a bunch of flowers in his hand. Jenny saw him. Are those for Miss Nogard? She asked. Oh, I don't know, said Louis. I passed a field of wildflowers on the way to school. I thought I might give them to someone special. He winked at her. He headed toward the school building. Jenny followed. Ooh, flowers, said Bibi. Are you going to give them to Miss Nogard? asked Calvin. Oh, I don't know, said Louis. I think she might have a pretty face. Face. Calvin and Bibi followed along with Jenny. Louis entered the building. Miss Nogard was in the office. She was getting her mail from her box. Her back was to him. Louis froze. Go on, Louis, urged Jenny. But Louis just stood there. The flowers rattled in his shaky hand, and several petals fell to the floor. Mr. Kidswatter came out of his office. Good morning, Louis, he said. What have you got there? Ah, these are for you, said Louis. He thrust the flowers into Mr. Kidswatter's hand. They're lovely, said Mr. Kidswatter. Miss Nogard turned around. Those are very pretty, Mr. Kidswatter, she said, then headed up the stairs. Louis watched her go. No one's ever brought me flowers before, said Mr. Kidswatter. You may not believe this, Louis, but I don't have many friends. He put his hand on Louis's shoulder. You're like a son to me. And you're a maggot-infested string bean, muttered Louis. What? asked Mr. K. I said, you're a magnificent human being. God. We're on chapter 29. That means we've got 2 more chapters. This one and the final chapter. And that should be the book. We're almost done with the book. Yay! Yay, haha, yippee, hooray! Chapter 29. Stupid. Did anyone have any trouble with their homework? Asked Miss Nogard. They all shook their heads. Ron shook his head too. Homework? He thought. What homework? Good, said Miss Nogard. Well, in that case, there won't be any homework tonight. Everyone cheered. Let's just quickly go over the answers, she said. Ron, what was your answer to question 1? Ron's stomach flipped over. He fumbled with his notebook. Just a second, he said. That's okay. We'll wait, said Miss Nogard. Ron flipped through the pages. What question are we on? He asked. Question 1, said Miss Nogard. I couldn't get that one, said Ron. Oh, said Miss Nogard. Well, that's okay, Ron, as long as you tried. Who knows the answer to question 1? A handful of hands went up in the air. 7 lima beans, thought Jason. 7 lima beans, thought Rondi. 6 cucumbers, thought Dee Dee. 7 lima beans, thought Stephen. Miss Nogard called on Dee Dee. 6 cucumbers, Dee Dee said proudly. No, I'm sorry, said Miss Nogard. The answer was 7 lima beans. Oh, I had that, thought Jason. Should have called on me, thought Rondi. Dee Dee is stupid, thought Stephen. Okay, question 2, said Miss Nogard. Ron, did you get that one? Ron squirmed in his seat. He flipped through his paper. What question are we on? He asked. Question 2, said Miss Nogard. I couldn't get that one either, said Ron. Miss Nogard looked at him a moment. Okay, who knows the answer to question 2? Abraham Lincoln's hat, thought Todd. Abraham Lincoln's hat, thought Joy. Abraham Lincoln's hat, thought Bebe. George Washington's left shoe, thought Calvin. Yes, Calvin, said Miss Nogard. George Washington's left shoe, said Calvin. No, I'm sorry, said Miss Nogard. The answer was Abraham Lincoln's hat. I knew it, thought Todd. Calvin's stupid, thought Joy. Ron, did you get the answer to number 3? asked Miss Nogard. Ron shook his sorry little head. He wished he had just told her the truth, but now it was too late. Anyone? asked Miss Nogard. Chairs and bears, thought Benjamin. Coats and goats, thought DJ. Chairs and bears, thought Mac. Chairs and bears, thought Dee Dee. Miss Nogard called on DJ. Coats and goats, he said hopefully. No, chairs and bears, said Miss Nogard. What an idiot, thought Benjamin. Question 4, said Miss Nogard. Ron? And so it went. Miss Nogard went through the entire homework assignment, and nobody gave a correct answer. I'm very disappointed, she said when they were finished. You obviously didn't understand it. I'm afraid I'm going to have to assign homework tonight after all. Everyone groaned. I don't like it any better than you do, said Miss Nogard, but it's for your own good. She assigned 3 pages of homework, plus they had to do yesterday's homework over again as well. But nobody blamed Miss Nogard. They liked her. She didn't even want to give homework. They blamed each other. It's not fair, thought Benjamin. I only missed 1 problem, but I have to do extra homework because everyone else is so stupid. It was the same all around the room. Nobody missed more than 2 problems. Everyone thought everyone else was stupid. Miss Nogard smiled as she listened to their thoughts. I hate Joe, thought John. I hate Calvin, thought Bebe. I hate Joy, thought Mauricia. I hate Allison, thought Rondi. And everyone hated Ron. She's evil. She's evil for real. She's evil. I support women's wrongs. She's evil and I like her so much. She's just causing problems on purpose. And she's honestly a little based for that. And I love it. All right. We are on chapter 30. This is the final chapter. Are you excited? Because I'm excited. Are you excited? Because I'm excited. This is our final chapter, and then when this chapter's done, we'll probably end stream, and then I'll see you guys tomorrow for Clue Finders. Chapter 30. The Little Stranger. Wayside School was no fun anymore. Hey, out of my way, Buster, said Dee Dee as she pushed past Ron on her way to her seat. Hey, keep your hairy paws to yourself, said Ron. Nobody had any friends. Everybody hated everybody, except Miss Nogard. They all liked her. But then a miracle happened. A new kid came to school. The new kid couldn't talk. She had no teeth. She was almost bald. She was beautiful. Her name was Mavis Jules. She was only 4 days old. She really was a new kid. Mrs. Jules carried her into the classroom, and when the baby came through the door, all the hate flew out the window. Louis came in behind them carrying a bassinet, a diaper bag, an assortment of toys, and a baby bottle. "It's Mrs. Jules and her baby!" Todd exclaimed. Louis set the bassinet on Todd's desk. Mrs. Jules gently laid her baby down in it on soft yellow blankets. Everyone crowded around the little stranger. "Look at her totally tiny toes," Bibi squealed. "Aren't those the cutest things you've ever seen in your whole life?" "Check out her nose," said Myron. "Oh, she's so beautiful, Mrs. Jules," said Joy. "Can I touch her?" "Sure," said Mrs. Jules. They took turns touching the baby. "Goo, goo, goo, goo," said Mac as he gently shook Mavis's little hand. "Iggle, wiggle, poo, poo," said Allison, tapping her on the nose. "Iggle, wiggle, poo, poo, poo," said Rondi, tickling her foot. "Yibble, bibble," said Todd. "Ooh, goo, boo, boo," cooed Joe. "She's never going to learn to talk around you kids," said Mrs. Jules with a laugh. Dana was so happy she cried. She hugged Mrs. Jules. They all took turns hugging Mrs. Jules. Of course, there was one person who wasn't happy. "May I hold her, Miss Jules?" Miss Nogard asked sweetly. Mrs. Jules looked at the substitute teacher. "It's okay," said Allison. "Miss Nogard's a real nice teacher." "Sure, go ahead," said Miss Jules. "I'm sorry for interrupting your class like this." "Oh, that's quite all right," said Miss Nogard, picking up Mrs. Jules' baby. "She's just adorable." The window by Shari's desk was wide open. That's kind of dangerous, Miss Nogard realized. Somebody might accidentally drop something out the window. She slowly moved toward it as she swayed with the baby. "I've heard so much about you, Mrs. Jules," she said. "The children have missed you." "I've missed them too," said Mrs. Jules. There was a rubber band ball on the floor next to Shari's desk. Shari had been making it, although it wasn't nearly as big as the one Mr. Kidswatter had been making. If I tripped over that rubber band ball, something awful might happen, thought Miss Nogard. She was just about to step on it when suddenly she became very curious about the kind of thoughts babies had. She'd never listened to a baby's brain before. Miss Nogard held Mavis close to her heart and listened. She gasped. Her face turned white, and her legs wobbled beneath her. As she tried to get her balance, she stepped over the rubber band ball and flew toward the open window. Louis jumped over Shari's desk and grabbed her just in time. Miss Jules hurried over. Miss Nogard tenderly handed Mrs. Jules her baby. Then she fainted in Louis's arms. It's impossible to describe, in words, exactly what Miss Nogard heard when she listened to Mavis's brain. Babies don't think in words. Miss Nogard heard pure love, and trust, and faith, with no words to get in the way. It was a love so strong that it dissolved away all the bitterness that had been caked around her heart. She opened her eyes. "Are you all right, Miss Nogard?" asked Stephen. All the children were very worried about her. Miss Nogard smiled at Louis, who was still holding her. "I'm fine," she said, then took a couple of steps to steady herself. In fact, I think I'm better than I've been in a long time, she laughed, then hugged Stephen. You should feel very proud of your class, she told Mrs. Jules. They're all bright, well-behaved, and just a pleasure to teach. We are? Asked Mauricia. Miss Nogard fluffed Mauricia's hair. Yes, you are, she said. Mauricia smiled up at her. I know, said Miss Jules. As I told my obstetrician. Your what? Asked Joy. Obstetrician, said Mrs. Jules. That's the doctor who helped me have my baby. Then, once the baby is born, she gets a new doctor. That doctor is called a pediatrician. That's different from a podiatrist, who is a doctor who takes care of people's feet. There are many different kinds of doctors. There's also a... Todd raised his hand. Miss Jules, you're starting to get a little boring, he said. Miss Jules made Todd write his name on the blackboard under the word discipline. Hey, Louis, shouted Mac. Ask Miss Nogard out on a date. Everyone looked at Louis. Miss Nogard looked at him too. Do it, Louis, said Leslie. I really would like to get to know you better, Miss Nogard, he said. Ooh, said Paul and Leslie. Way to go, Louis, cheered DJ. Call me Wendy, said Wendy Nogard. Ooh, said BB and Calvin. Okay, Wendy, said Louis. And you can call me Louis. I already do, said Wendy. She smiled at him. He smiled back. So, what do you say? He asked. Would you like to go out sometime? Miss Nogard hesitated. Say yes, Miss Nogard, urged Jenny. Miss Nogard took a deep breath. I like you, Louis, she said, but I think there's something you should know about me first. She bent over and parted the hair on top of her head. Everyone crowded around as they tried to get a good look. It's an ear! Shouted Jason. Yes, it is an ear, said Miss Nogard. Cool, said Terrence. Can I touch it? Asked Dana. Everyone took turns touching her ear. The one on top of her head, I mean. So, Louis, are you sure you still want to go out with me? She asked. Louis held her hands in his. I like you a lot, he said. Doesn't matter how many ears you have. How many... He paused for a second. How many ears do you have? Just 3, she assured him. I think your ears are beautiful, said Louis. I think your nose and eyebrows are beautiful. Miss Nogard didn't have to read Louis's mind to know he was telling the truth. She could see it in his eyes. His eyes were like the moon. She kissed him. His mustache tickled. Everybody oohed. And that's the end of Book 3 of the Wayside series. Wayside School Gets a Little Stranger. Next week, we're doing the puzzle books. The next week is the next meeting of the Nostalgia Book Club. We are going to be reading the puzzle books and doing some brain teasers from the brain teaser puzzle books. It's called Sideways Arithmetic from Wayside School. There's 2 puzzle books. We're gonna read the puzzle books and try and puzzle through the puzzles, have fun with them. And then, yeah, we're on to the final book in the series, and then we can start our watch-along of the cartoon series. So, yeah, that's exciting. That's very exciting. That was fun. I'm really enjoying reading these. These are really good. Yeah. All right, well, hey, that's stream. That's stream, baby. We did it. Sounds interesting. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Well, hey, thank you guys all so much for coming by. Thank you all for hanging out with me. I really do appreciate everyone taking time out of their day to come spend time with me. I will see you guys tomorrow for Clue Finders. And then maybe more Nuzlocke over the weekend. And then we're back to just chatting on Monday and just, more streams, more hanging out, more the same. More the same here on Koyuki channel. I will say, hey Foxel4, before I really end off, you're like the only chatter who like stayed in chat all day. So I want to reward you and show my appreciation by showing you something cool that I'm working on. Do you want to see it? Do you want to see it? Do you want to see it? Waits for chat to catch up with my yammering. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Okay, let me load it up really quick. I am loading it in. It'll be just a minute because I have to load it up. It's something that I drew on my laptop that I need to get on my streaming PC so I can show it to you. Alright, it is loading. Come on, load. Alright. Alright, it is up. Let me show it to you. And... well, bam! I am making a new VTuber model for myself. What do you think? Is it cute? Do you like it? Do you like it? I wanted to go with like a little bit more of a more anime style while also keeping some of my cartooniness. And like Toon Yuki's not going away. I was inspired and I wanted to make a new one. So here we go. I can't be stopped. It looks awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I think it looks really cute. I have like shorts and thigh highs and I have if you look close, I have a tattoo on my shoulder. And yeah, I think it turned out really cute. I think it's really cute so far. Now I just need to actually finish it and then rig it and then, yeah. I got a lot more work to do on it. But I just wanted to show you because, you deserve it. You deserve it. You're a real one. Foxel4, a real one. Foxel4 is appreciated. Foxel4 is a big shot. Alright. Okay, I'm gonna call stream. I love you guys. I will see you guys next time. I'll see you guys tomorrow for Clue Finders. Yeah. Okay. Bye. Bye. Thanks. No, thank you. Thank you for being such a cool based Poggers viewer. I appreciate. Alright. Bye. Bye. I'll see you on the flip side, my silly ones.